It's now 5 o'clock. I will call the board meeting to order. Please let the record show that we have six trustees in attendance, with Mr. McCutcheon will be arriving in just a few minutes. This meeting has been duly called and notice of the meeting is duly posted for time and manner required by law. It is now 5 o'clock. We will go into closed session according to Texas Education Code Section 551.001 et sec. we will reconvene back into open session. At this time, I have Mr. Schofield lead us in our invocation, followed by Ms. Timmerman with our pledges.
Father, thank you for the opportunity you give us to gather in a situation that in a country where we're free and able to educate our children. Please bless the people in this room and those listening to help us to serve our community. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Bridges, we didn't have anyone sign up to speak tonight in our open forum? Okay, next item on our agenda will be Human Resources. The consideration to approve the personnel report. Ms. James?
Good evening, Board. I would like to request that you approve the personnel report as recommended by the superintendent.
Any questions or discussion from Ms. James? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the HR report as presented in closed session.
I move we approve the HR report as presented in closed session.
Motion by Mr. McCutcheon,
Second.
second by Mr. Schofield. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, I believe we're a little ahead of schedule, so we'll skip over our recognitions. Come back, you okay with that?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will go into our board workshop. First item on our agenda for board workshop will be a financial literacy update. Dr. Averett, how are you this evening? Item 5A, our project manager report. Mr. Craig.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I started to wear my safety vest and my hard hat. My boots are a little bit dusty. I'm not quite as clean as I have been in the past. I'm sorry. We are doing well on these projects. We really are. And so honored and so pleased to be working with BTC. They're doing us a good job. They really are at it. So we'll start with Max Simpson Elementary. And as you can see, it's dark on the left-hand side there. There were 85 pipes sticking up out of that slab that they poured around. And in the right picture, you can see where they put blankets over that, and they keep those blankets wet for 7 days while the concrete cures, and it helps it to cure better. It keeps it cool during these hot days. You can see in the background where you can see some little towers sticking up there. And if you look at as the gym walls are going up, this is over the gym. Those pictures were taken from basically the same perspective. And you can see that was in just about 3 days, the difference there. So the picture on the right was taken this morning. And so by now, they were probably 7 courses higher on that one than they were. So they're averaging about 7 courses a day. So they're making really, really good progress on that. We placed this concrete last Friday morning. We started at 3 o'clock. They were still placing at noon. So we were 10 hours placing 410 yards of concrete because we simply couldn't get the concrete there. They brought a truck. It was okay. They brought the second truck. It was too wet. We sent it back. We put 2 more trucks down, and then the batch plant broke down. And then it was hit and miss the rest of the morning. What should have taken us 5 hours max ended up taking about 12 hours by the end of the day of pouring this and the concrete beams that we poured over that you can't see over to the right of this. Anyway, this kind of gives you an overview of what is on the floors that are poured right now. C, the gym, and area C, which is the cafeteria and the kitchen, and now area D, which is kindergarten and first grade. We'll be moving around to area A next. A is a little bit bigger than, it goes down below that red line below the letter A there. It goes all the way down to that indoor courtyard. So that'll be next. Steel will start arriving tomorrow out there at the site, at the Simpson site, and crane will show up next week, about a week from today, and they'll start setting, we'll really start going vertical, start setting piers, columns, and that'll start in area C and go around. Even as we're finishing up the concrete, the steel will be coming up. So we're making great progress. Oops, come on here, Michael. All right, here's a fantastic view. This is shot from a drone late last week. The one on the left, you can see is looking at everything from the northeast corner. You can see the intersection of Washington and Tyler there in the bottom. And you can see the progress that Circle H has made on that road. They already have the water and the sewer and on Haven, which is to the south of the campus, and they were tying in the water today. So that we're making good progress. On the other side, on Washington here, the sewer is in, the water's in. The storm sewer line is going just across the road, so that's done already. So they're already all the way up to Vista Way. So we're making good progress. We're a little bit ahead of the schedule, and I'm glad to hear that because that means that we won't have as much controversy on these streets getting that all worked out in the timing. All right, out at the agri-science buildings, we're going up. If you've driven by there, if you've gone by, you see it. It's looking pretty awesome, isn't it? It really is. And this was as they were staging last week. They've already gone from this last week to this. On Friday, you know that when that wind hit us, Friday afternoon, that cold front, I was going, oh my goodness, I know all of those columns are sticking up in the air out there. So I go out there, and thankfully they were still there. This is the picture that I shot of that. And then this is this morning. So one's from looking on the left is looking from the north, looking southward, and the one on the right is from the back, looking forward towards 287. So we're doing great. We really are. We've got other things going on as well. We'll be working on starting the furniture picking all of that out and everything in the morning. We'll start working on that. We've got the steel, like I said, that's coming in. Those columns will be going up. Also, the steel is, we've got, this is pretty interesting. We've ordered all of the steel for the cattle guards at the Agri-Science Department. Whitaker Steel cut them to length, brought them to us. They have them at the ag shop, and so the students are going to actually build those cattle guards. Mr. Mulligan is already started. He's already started that process. I designed all of the cattle guard, and Mr. Farmer, who's doing our concrete work, is getting us a bid on that part in the morning. So we're not slacking up a bit. We're going to get it done, and students are going to have their hand in this a little bit now. So that's always good for me. It's always good for you. So that's it for this week. Any questions for me?
I have a quick one.
Sure.
Who was the one that rejected the concrete that was too wet? Was that you?
I was one of them. There was two of us there that made that decision.
Would that have happened if you hadn't have been there?
I think it would have. Yes,
Okay.
Danny Valdez he's on top of everything. Yes, we actually turned down 5 trucks out at the Agri-Science Department,
Okay.
and then one that the slump was too great. Yeah, we said we don't want that stuff. Take it back.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just a comment. You mentioned BTC, and you've had a really good working relationship with them. Because
Right.
remember when they presented to us how impressed we were? That's good news. That's just good to hear that.
I can't say enough
yeah.
good about this company. They are doing a fantastic job, and Danny Valdez especially, who's the chief superintendent out there with this job site, extremely organized and on top of it all the time.
You know, sometimes if you build something else and use that same company, you can specify the superintendent of that, and that
that's
makes a
absolutely
difference.
correct. Yeah,
I think you did that on the skill record.
I did. Yes. We did.
Project 2 months one time to get
So
the
Thank
we're
you,
doing
thank you very much,
You
Mr.
bet.
Craig.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to jump back up to the first part of our agenda. We're going to go to our recognitions. Ms. Bridges?
Philip Morgan, our Director of Fine Arts, is going to do the first recognition for us.
Oh, I don't know if you need that. Oh, no, there's a lot of people, yeah. That's good. Said students are coming in, Brad Andrews walks in.
They're excited.
What does that mean?
And just right here, you can face the audience so your parents can take pictures. Oh, good.
Come on in. Come on in.
Mr. Rogers, don't call the fire marshal, please. I think
All right. I think we've got parents and our students here. Dr. Averett, Dr. Kane, board members, trustees. Each year, the Texas Music Educators Association hosts statewide competitions in Conference C, Double C, and Triple C concert band performance that are open to junior high music programs in these enrollment categories. The TMEA process involves a live performance recording and submission of that recording of the previous year's UIL concert program of required literature that is then reviewed and critiqued by many members of the Texas Music Adjudicators Association. From 3 rounds of critiques, 2 bands advance from the region level to the area level, and then the top 2 from each TMEA area advance as a state finalist to represent that area in the contest. Tonight, the Department of Fine Arts is honored to bring you the Coleman Junior High Band to recognize their achievement as a 2019 state TMEA concert finalist. Their 8th graders currently are with us, and their 9th graders are currently not with us because they're with the high school band doing what the feeder pattern is supposed to do. This honor truly embodies the strength and exemplary teaching taking place in music education in Waxahachie ISD, and it is evidence that our band feeder program in grades 6 through 12 is very strong. What a talent and treasure we have in these students and their directors this year. Please join us tonight in congratulating and recognizing the students and teachers for achieving superior honors in their accomplishments in the 2019 state competition. The band students at Coleman Junior High are under the direction of Head Director David Ingram, who is here with us, and Assistant Director Mr. Armando Vera, who is also with us. Congratulations to all of you on your state placement and qualifications in the TMEA band contest from WISD. Please join me in a round of applause for these students. As a side note, the students and directors will be receiving district recognition pins this evening by our Board of Trustees. And if you would, they will also be signing the newly stated, do I need to jump in here too? No, all right, I'll stay over. The students have also signed our newest tradition, the Waxahachie ISD Fine Arts State Board, which is downstairs. So on your way out this moment, please take a moment to check out their elite gold leaf signatures on our very awesome district state board. Yes, you made it.
All right, everybody, look here. Thank y'all. Sorry.
I'm cheating too. I'm gonna get real fast. Perfect, good job. Thank you.
Mr. Armstrong said he would be here, but as usual, he's in rehearsal.
That's right, correct.
Always. He's breathing, he's rehearsing.
Thank y'all so much for being here.
Thank you guys.
Board, each year, the Texas Association of School Boards asks districts to nominate members of the media for their Media Honor Roll, which recognizes outstanding reporting on school district news. I am very proud to announce that 2 members of our local media were named to the honor roll this year. The Waxahachie Sun's Joanne Livingston and Ashley Ford, who was with the Waxahachie Daily Light until a few weeks ago. Both of these women are proponents of public education and work tirelessly to help us promote the fantastic things happening in Waxahachie ISD. We very much appreciate their contributions. Thank you. Board, next we would like to honor Shackelford Security Officer Milton Cobb, who's back here with us. Officer Cobb was quick to react when some unknown people made their way onto Shackelford's playground recently. Everything turned out just fine. They were workmen who were coming to make some repairs to the playground but didn't check in at the front office first. But Officer Cobb's swift reaction to protect students and the campus is appreciated by everyone. And Mr. East says that Officer Cobb's great attitude and commitment to the Shackelford campus make him a wonderful asset to Shackelford. Board, finally, we would like to recognize an amazing group of people in our district who really stepped up during a tragic time for our community. As you all know, a 6-year-old student at First Christian Day School, Ollie Weidman, recently passed away. First Christian is a small school without many of the resources they needed to deal with a tragedy of this magnitude. Waxahachie ISD counselors immediately jumped into action. They took time on a Saturday to meet with First Christian staff and were available to First Christian students, staff, and families during the week after Ollie passed away. In addition, they'll be providing lessons to all First Christian students on a monthly basis throughout the rest of the school year to continue to offer emotional support. Those counselors who stepped in to assist are Ginger Robinson, Monica Chilton, Monica Taylor, Anita Barnes, Bo Livingston, Tony Vincent, Ramona Lionheart, Laura Northcutt, Claire Thornhill, Christy Noonkester, Christy Slate, Robin Ruthart, Carrie Andrews, Jennifer Wilson, Amy Andra, and Kishan Lavender. Thank you all so much. Thank y'all. Good to see you. Absolutely, thank you. That's all right. That's it. Thank you, board.
Okay, next item on our agenda will be under item 5B, update on the 13-point security plan. Mr. Avenshaw?
Thank you, Mr. President. In June, we presented an update of the 13-point plan that the Board of Trustees approved before the 2018-19 school year. We've made some updates to the chart that was presented to you at that time in June. So this is now your September update. It's located on pages 16 through 22 of your board book, and I'm just here to answer any questions you may have regarding that 13-point plan and our revamped district crisis management team under the new requirements of SB 11, which will be meeting next Wednesday for the first time of the school year.
Mr. Avenshaw,
Ms. Kriegel?
I wanted to discuss the metal detector wands at every campus. looking at this 2 screenings of students at entry and 2 screenings of randomly selected classrooms, in light of everything in our world going on and everything, I would like to have more principal discretion. If they would like to have more screenings or more wandings, whatever, I would like to see the principals have some input and be sure that 2 screenings, they feel like 2 screenings is sufficient.
Okay. And I think our security team could very much accommodate that. So if campus principal wants more screening.
Or if it's just a certain day, it's like, you know what, something happened the day before, do we have some wanding over here? I was thinking we were more flexible.
Sure.
Is this descriptive, or was this?
This is a minimum expectation, and we don't want to unduly interrupt class time with the classes that are pulled out. But certainly if a campus principal wants more screening, I'm certain that we can accommodate more screening.
Sometimes there would be screening coming in, and they don't have to be there.
Right.
If they get screening coming in, you don't get
And what you don't want to have happen, obviously, is if you've mandated only 2 and those screenings occurred on the 1st and 15th, hey, there's no screening for the rest of the month.
That's what I'm afraid
I
of.
understand, Ms. Kriegel. No, that's well taken. Are there any other questions?
Questions, comments, Mr. Avenshaw?
Yes, I think it might be important just to let the public know about our staff member at the high school that's now a student advocate, crisis, you know, I just, in light of everything that's been going on, I mean, I know I've told some people and they're like, oh, that's great. You know, that's good that we have that now.
If I'm allowed, I would make a genuine brag. Tiffany Cotton is our former assistant principal. She's our student advocate, but she's exceptional in crisis situations. And without getting into any specifics, I had a parent reach out to me recently just to say, had a concern. I believe it was an earnest concern, reference on behalf of the child. Immediately, I called Ms. Cotton, knowing that she could handle the issue. I immediately got back in touch with the parent. I know that Ms. Cotton then made contact with the parent and assured the parent that she would take care of the concerns. I have the utmost faith and confidence in Ms. Cotton. I know her heart. So I'm truly excited about her transition into that role at the high school, and I genuinely believe in her competence to take care of significant issues affecting kids.
She's also proactive. Her role is also to be proactive and not just reactive. So we had, well, she's already broken up a fight, but I don't know if that was part of her role. She was in the right place or the wrong place at the right time. And then she ended up, I think, counseling those kids later on. So she is I think that administrative background makes her uniquely qualified. And she's just got that heart. She's got that special heart. But at the same time, she will do tough love when need be.
I believe in it.
One question.
Yes, ma'am.
These emergency guides that it mentions here for parents, when do they get those?
Now, that's something that our Public Relations Department did last year as a part of essentially revamping our announcements to our parents within the community. Ms. Bridges?
I believe that guide is posted on our website. I'll double check that.
I couldn't find it today. I looked for it.
Let me double check and make sure. I know that last year when we were implementing all that, it was kind of a crazy time, and I can't remember if I got one in front of me. So I will take a look at that and make sure that was posted, and if not, we'll get it posted.
And if it is posted, I think we need to get it out to parents that there's something on the website about that.
Anything else from Mr. Avenshaw on the security? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sir, we'll see you in just a minute. Okay, next item under reports will be item C under lesson planning. I believe Dr. Kane's going to take that one tonight.
Yes, I don't know how many of you saw the movie The Perfect Storm, but it is a good example of how what it was intended to be a very nice fishing trip, because of a lot of factors, did not turn out so well. Last summer, several things happened. One of the most difficult things at an elementary school is when you get a new adoption for a book. I don't care if it's math, I don't care if it's science, but when it's ELAR, it's particularly stressful. TEA also put out new guidelines for new TEKS that is also very problematic and difficult to put in because it costs more time and there's a lot of things have to be refocused. And you know, our teachers are really hardworking, so whenever you kind of get in the groove of something and then there's a major change, so that's 2 changes. A third change was we had been struggling because we have inconsistencies in our lesson planning. And that's not been allowed, that has not allowed us to go to the next level that we want to go. And so we need to standardize the lesson planning. So do you see these, all these well-intentioned, now there's not a bad guy in this story, but these are major things that were going on. On top of that, we lost Ms. Blaylock, who just led our curriculum program so well. So whenever she chose to, that she wanted to spend more time at home, there was a little gap before we got Dr. Holt. Very happy to have got Dr. Holt, but there was a 6-week time gap. And so what's some of the steps that we were going, and then plus when you get somebody new, the first thing they're not thinking of is lesson planning. So, so Dr. Holt comes in, and I'm sure I said, oh, here's some things you need to do, and no one said lesson planning. You know, we'd made this plan. So before school, so all of this came together at one time. And if I could have done, I should have done a better, I'd like to take ownership of this. I should have done a better job of saying, okay, let's look at all these perfect storm things that we've got going on, and let's step back and prioritize it, because the new textbooks, the new TEKS, all of that was so much. Well, we didn't, and it was the perfect storm. And it put a lot of stress on campuses. Not that the principals were all very much supportive of having new lesson plans, but at the same time, all of these things are going on. And school starts, okay? I forgot to add, part of the perfect storm is school starting. And I don't care how well planned it is, or how well thought out, or how well we do, it's stressful. We had a couple of principal changes, which we were happy to have, but at the same time, that adds stress to a campus. When we want this person and they get this person, it's still because there's changes. So there were just so many things going on that if I had this to do over again, we would have backed off and waited a bit on putting in the lesson plans. We didn't, so we're going to consider that the anticipatory set, that we know we've got this. And then Dr. Averett and Dr. Holt and Ms. Mott went to a Region 10 TEA training. And when we're looking at lesson planning, and if it's my understanding that they said, if you really want to get an A and get at that higher level of thinking, we need you as a district, they weren't just talking to us, we need districts to go to a new lesson format. And how close was that to the one we were using?
It's perfectly aligned with the one that we have now, but again, providing support to meet concerns of teacher concerns.
Right. So we know we're on the right track because that's the one that we should be using, but we need to retool, we look at our implementation and what we're going to offer. Because now there are some teachers, and it seems like our teachers who are just coming out of the colleges are much more comfortable with it, because I think in many cases that's what the one they're being taught and the one that they're using. So it's not causing angst for everybody, but we want it not to cause angst for anybody. So we are going to, the curriculum office has already talked about offering tutoring, training. There can be 3 different ways. One, we will send our CNI people to a campus and park them and say, when it's your conference period, if you want help with lesson planning, come to whatever room. And if that takes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and we have not said, this has to be done by a certain date. Now, we kind of did target by semester. We would like everybody to have those. But if that's not, if we still have a teacher who's struggling and saying, I don't quite have all those pieces in place, I don't think that's going to cause anybody any heartburn. So we have the all-day training available. And all the principal has to say is, I think we need her for another day, or let's do this every Thursday and not do it every day. We're going to be so flexible. We're going to be a model. Also, there's going to be after-school training for those who do not want to give up their planning period because they're planning other things. There's also going to be offered some Saturday training that you can go on Saturday. We are not in a rush. There is not a deadline that if you don't have it by this time. We are very open to teachers saying, you know, if you would change this a little bit, it would really make it easier. And if it still fits with the model and the expectation of TEA in Region 10, it is not so set in concrete that it's like, it's got to be this way. But there are several components that need to be in so that we have structure. I think something else that caused angst, we went from Eduphoria, which everyone loves because it's so easy to use, to a Google format. And I'm trying to remember why we did that, and it is because
Collaboration mostly is more transparent. They can also share their lesson plans, which was not able to do.
so if you're not used to Google, then that's something else you have to learn and adds to the storm. The advantage of that is if you're a new teacher and you're going, I'm not really certain how to do that summarization piece, you can look at other people's lesson plans and look at that, and other levels of collaboration that you can do. So so that was another piece. Some people are better at using Google Docs than others. I'm one of the others, but we're working on that. Did I miss any other oopses?
So currently, in addition to, we are going to provide, not only that we are going to provide these, we already have provided in excess of 70, either one-on-one sessions, PLCs, or after-school sessions. We're focusing a lot on the ELAR. There have been 13 videos. I know that's not great, but if someone can't come to some of these or is having difficulty and wants more, they are 13 two-minute videos trying to put that in there, some tips and cheat type notes to make it accessible. We put in a concern button, per se, like a hot call. So if they have concerns, we try to address those immediately. So we are trying to provide as many supports as we can while still holding to the fidelity of the Effective Schools framework, which calls for the lesson plans to the quality that we're looking at.
All right, board, are there any questions, comments?
Well, yes, I have.
Go right ahead.
I have several questions, but first, I'd like to say that I realize as a board member, it's not my responsibility to go out and investigate things that are happening in the district. But myself and other board members have had several teachers contact us just because of all the stress. But they felt like there was not another avenue.
Thank you for bringing to mind what else I was going to talk about. At one time, the district had CEIC and DEIC, the Campus Education Improvement Council, and there are several things you can do with that, but for whatever reason, it's not been here for a while. But what that took away is teachers being able to anonymously or personally say, first at the campus level, I have a concern about, and it can be about lesson plans, it can be about, and because we want to resolve it at the lowest level. We're putting that back into place, and I think, is everyone going to have their first CEIC, all the principals, before the end of the month? I see head shaking. So this is going to start us back on the CEIC route. We will have an agenda, and we will have minutes. So a lot of time, first of all, I thank the board for being that backup whenever the people felt like they couldn't call anybody else. So what you can say is, have you brought it to your CEIC? Now, the fact that, and I feel very comfortable saying that, because if they feel like that's not, that there may be not a good thing to do, the fact that you can do it anonymously, and there's two ways to do it anonymously. One, I can say, Clay, it's me, but I don't want anybody to know it's me. Or I can write this up and hand it to Clay, and Clay doesn't even know it's from me. And he would present it at CEIC and say, there's a teacher on our campus who feels like the district is just not being clear when it comes to making certain this lesson plan thing does X. Well, it's up to the campus to, that's probably not a good example, but because it doesn't just have to be a lesson plans, it can be about anything, but that vehicle was not there, Ms. Timmerman. That vehicle was not there for teachers, not just teachers, the non-teaching professionals like librarians and diags, and even the paras on campus. It is a vehicle because the principals want everything solved at their level. Now, whenever the question is, I don't like the dental plan, that the campus wouldn't even deal with that. It would be, oh, that needs to go to DEIC. Or it could be something that is, they just can't resolve. But the good thing about it, the agenda will be posted online for the campuses and the district, and the minutes will be posted online. So you are able to, and the campus is able to, because some teachers aren't going to want to go to the meeting or can't. So the teachers know, see, that's how I know my question was answered. Here's my question, and here's the answer to that. So I could still remain anonymous and still get my question answered. So thank you, Ms. Chairman, because we're putting that back in, and that I think will help not only with the lesson planning, with other things. And I think, because I know you guys want to help, and the people who come to you are coming to you honestly for help. They're not coming to get anybody in trouble, or they're saying, I need help. And unfortunately, we did not have a vehicle for providing that, and we do now. Thank you. But I think you had other things.
Yes. These questions I have compiled from teachers that they would just like answers to. First, and you kind of hit on this.
If you don't mind, if we could take those rather than Dr. Holt answering them now, if we could just go ahead and use our DEIC model.
Okay.
And let Dr. Holt and the team answer those and be our first posting online for DEIC. How would that be?
That's fine.
And then that way she wouldn't be having to answer them on the fly. But yet everyone will get their answers. And so that would be a win-win.
And it is a win-win because I've worked under that system being a former administrator, and it works great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as principals, we want to think our teachers are going to come to us about everything, but they're not. They don't feel comfortable at times. But with this system, it's good.
The teachers are elected. The first year we're a little off because we starting it up, like there's 1 year and 2 year, but we're just naming year 1, year 2, you know, but I think at the end, we kind of made some judgment calls. At the end of this year, we'll go, okay, now why do we want to tweak this in the future about maybe getting people elected? The proportion of, we want a higher proportion of teachers than administrators. We would like a person representing paras. I mean, just being there to listen for paras and to give input. And so, but I think each committee makeup is probably going to be a little bit different. But my concern right now, the district one's getting so big, I don't want it to be so big it's really not a committee. So we're going to be probably talking to the DEIC first about that. Well, I'll give you an example. Right now, we have 2 people from each campus. Well, that's a lot of people right there. We may go to one person from each campus and maybe 2 from the high school or something to have, so it's not so cumbersome that it's not, I mean, it really needs to be a problem-solving committee, and you can get a committee so large that it's not that, does not lend itself as well to problem solving. And you know what? If it doesn't work, we always change it back. So if you will give those questions to Dr. Holt, do you think we can get those up by Friday?
Absolutely, and that was our goal all along by having this hot system. So instead of 24-hour turnaround, we would have just a matter of hours before we could reach staff. We just haven't had as many as we thought that put into the system, so that would be very beneficial, and we can get that done and resolved quickly.
And Ms. Bridges, if you would give that preferential treatment to go ahead and put a DEIC, you know, the on our splash page, we need one that just says DEIC so people can go straight to that. A tab, thank you, a tab. And that would be our first input, you know, that it was brought anonymously by staff to this meeting, and here's the responses.
Do you want a DEIC tab on each campus webpage?
Yes. And those will also be, Dr. Averett and Ms. Mott keep a campus notebook, and that will be at the notebook because some people don't use the web. They're not as comfortable with the web. You can go in, I think it's Dr. Averett's office. They're probably all going to be there. It's Ms. Nisa is going to be taking care of it.
Question, Dr. Kane. What is the expectation for lesson plans during this transition time? Because I know teachers want to have some type of lesson plan, you know, but we're having all these issues. What is the expectation district-wide?
Well, the expectation after talking to principals is that, number one, they wanted to be the ones to move to Google as well last year. That was what was brought up in those meetings early on. So it was to be transparent, it was to be more collaborative, it was to make sure that we have pacing, not only from the principals, but this also came from the Effective School Framework, that it needs to be paced out, that it needed to have, like your TRS piece in there, it needed to have activities, and it needed to have assessment. So those things stand. In fact, the two major qualities that differ from last year, there are only two that are different from the lesson plan last year. One was to, when you have technology incorporation into the classroom, add it. Doesn't mean you have to do it every day. And that was a concern and a misunderstanding early on. But when you do have technology incorporated, you need to write it down. And when you have small groups, not necessarily every day, although good practice, but when you have those, you would incorporate that. So those are the only two significant changes from last year's lesson plans that were additions, other than the implementation on Google.
Right.
So we still have those clear expectations because that's what it takes to build a cohesive lesson plan, daily lesson plan. So those things haven't changed, but understanding the concerns of staff and trying to be as supportive as we can, we are trying to roll out the model over the course of until January. So that we are moving ahead. Principals, we all met, and principals we decided as a team that we would move forward, allowing January, allowing us to support during this transition time.
Okay.
But they still have to have lesson plans in.
Right, I know,
Right.
I understand, but teachers are spending multiple hours trying to do the Google plan, and it's not perfected, and there are many, many issues with the teachers. So,
Is
are
it
they
the
going to
Google?
get?
Is it the Google piece or the lesson plan piece? do you
It's
think?
honestly, what it appears to be the lesson plan and incorporating things that may not have been included. There are some kinks that we have worked out already within the lesson plan, but it appears that when we offer supports, for the most part, when we offer supports and they come, they begin to understand more deeply in how it works. It is some cutting and pasting. If they have lesson plans in Eduphoria, they can actually be cut and pasted over into the new Google. So there's some issues there, wondering, to the fidelity of the Eduphoria, because they could be cut and pasted over. So, but there are issues. We're not denying at all that there are issues with the new incorporation. It's just that there weren't significant changes, and so we need to find out where was the piece that was missing there, and then trying to give them time to get used to the new platform.
I too am hearing from teacher of their angst when they're spending 12 hours on one part of a lesson plan on a weekend. So,
How would you spend 12 hours on one part of a lesson plan?
they're saying they do.
We also did a training actually for principals that were in the room, and we did, the collaboration piece of the Google allows for, again, the teamwork of building lesson plans so they could work together as a team or a PLC to do that. And we actually showed the principals in 13 minutes how we could build lesson plans incorporating everything except the depth of the activities of the lessons. So, and that was for the whole week. So we feel like once they get used to this framework, that will kind of appease itself. But early on, I'm really not sure. We have some that are spending an hour and some that are spending 12. And so to find out if it's the ELAR piece as well, if it's moving from perhaps I was teaching in a departmentalized situation and now I'm teaching in a self-contained, and so I'm writing multiple lesson plans, if that's a factor as well. So again, as Dr. Kane suggested, it's a perfect storm. Right.
And I understand that, and there was very little to no training before school
And that's not
started.
negating that if they have concerns, primarily, we're out there to support. We're not saying we don't understand.
Yeah, that's who we'd like to talk to first, actually, because it hurts us to think that we got a teacher who's spending 12 hours on a lesson plan. So I'm hoping that person is, say, already tweeting somebody wanting to sign up for a lesson.
Well, unfortunately, it's not just a person. We're hearing that from multiple people all the time it's taking to do lesson plans. And this isn't a question, but some of the issues are can't see the entire day on one screen, can't insert multiple clickable links, difficulty including pictures and attaching documents. can't scroll in a cell unless it's up, which means you can't reference plans on the fly. Copy and pasting from multiple documents is a nightmare.
Yeah, Mr.
And these are
Timmerman,
just all
another
issues.
reason I wanted that wasn't just so she could answer, so we could get that list of the problems too, because
okay.
you probably have one of the more comprehensive lists of the problems.
Yes, I do.
And some of those have already been addressed, just so, but we'll.
Can you give an
get them
example of
again.
one of those she may have listed that we addressed and
The
fixed?
scrolling, they said that they weren't able to do bullets, the cutting and pasting, those kind of things. Those, well, first, the cutting and pasting from the pasting documents and the IFDs have always been in place, even in Eduphoria. That's not new. If they were required to do that, that's not a new piece. It was already required in the Eduphoria piece. But part of that problem is ELAR and the addition of Fontes and Pinnell, and another piece of that, and not being used to the resource. So that's a significant piece of that as well, I'll agree. But the bullets were there. We did some cheat tips, the quick ways that you could maneuver to attach images, to attach folders. And the teachers that now have been through that training are getting it. So another thing we rely on is making sure principals, making sure teachers are actually allowing us to call us or to ask us questions, invite us to the campus. We're going out there even uninvited, just to say. However, to make sure that you're inviting us to the campus and telling specifically what that is and trying to address those needs seriously immediately.
And we do have some principals here who are our principals are very supportive of this, but if you'd like to ask them questions or ask them maybe how things are going on their campus.
Oh, well, I'm just curious, are there any other school districts that are having this same issue?
When y'all were talking about the training at Region 10, did that come up from other districts?
I didn't hear any comments directly related about that training. As I've been going through other district improvement plans in the area, I've seen multiple ones talk about a common lesson plan and strengthening lesson plans, because it is a part of that effective schools framework. And so if your district or campus with a low rating, you're going to be required to do those checked by the state. And so people are, circling around, making sure that their campuses have that solid in place before you fall to that D or F rating where they are required by the state.
Well,
There are
that's
5
another-
levers. I'm sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
There are 5 levers within the Effective School Frameworks Plan, and the 5th one is the one that covers lesson plans and also assessments. And every one of the 5 have at least one component that the state expects you to meet for best practices. Lever 5 has 2, the lesson plans and the assessment fidelity. And it's pretty in-depth and very specific, again, with the pacing, the IFDs, those pieces.
I just want to mention that, that a lot of the teachers that several of us have heard from are teachers that are very well respected in this district. And it just really concerns me that there's, so many issues. And with the training that's provided, will there be a mastery? I mean, I just kept hearing about the amount of time. Will that lessen as with the training?
The feedback that I'm getting and some of the emails that I've received today of teachers that are actually writing in after the trainings have said, I have hope, I can kind of see where we're going with this. And now that they can do collaborative lesson planning for the week, and that's not something they've been able to do, they could share the cutting and the pasting from those documents. So for example, if they did it as a team, one could put in the pacing, one could put in the IFD, and that would significantly minimize the time as well. So we're training them on that aspect too.
And we want them collaboratively
We want them to
writing.
collaborate, right.
That's why Google Doc.
I think the one thing that got me the most in all the comments was the teachers that are saying the amount of time that it's taking to do the plans, it's taking away from their students. They don't have time now to do the fun things because they're using all their time planning all the time. And that's a concern.
Well, I think as we give them training, that is our goal, that it not be that way, but we just now are getting to the point that we're identifying the problem and we're working with it, but we need to get to, that's what we're saying we're going to fix. Now, if some people can do it in an hour, I'd like to think most people could do it. Did you say some people are doing it the whole week in an hour?
Yeah,
Which is
some
they
teams
get
are- some
5
teams are-
planning.
Some teams are doing that when they're working collaboratively as well. So we want to encourage that as well. I mean, there are principals in the room too. I know that in the beginning. there
Anybody
were
want to weigh in on
concerns,
this,
if anybody wants
principals?
to. And I'm not negating we still have concerns. I'm not saying that at all.
And the big demonstration that we had with science, that took the whole 15, 25 minutes to do. And it seemed very simple, okay? It's all a hard process and it's growing things, I know. But the ELIR, I do believe that it is a beast trying to plan it all, but they're doing it. And so that's the other part. It is hard, and like Dr. King stated earlier, it is the rollout. It was the rollout and everything like the perfect storm crashed.
Do you think if we, as one of our senior principals, if we did not have the new ELAR TEKS and the new ELAR book, would this have been such a problem?
Oh, I don't know. What y'all think of that one? I think it would still be difficult because you have the new adoption, you still have new teams. I think it still would have been difficult. I don't know.
And they were given 5 days before school
Yes.
started. Nobody had time to wrap their mind around change. The rug was just kind of slipped out from under. And so I think where we're facing the biggest issue is that they're playing catch up. Some of them had already begun planning over the summer. And so while, yes, we need to fix our plans, there is no doubt about that. That is an issue that we've had for a while. And I think that's a focus that we need to have. Our teachers are just in a constant wheel trying to catch up with this whole rollout.
But are we hammering away at them, or are they just such professionals? They feel like if this is what we want, they've got to do it, and they got to all do it right now. And so some of this pressure they're putting themselves because they have such a high level of.
You have until January, but then what does that look like? Because then on the other hand, we were told, but they don't need to be told they can just plan an Eduphoria either. So are they planning it to, like, what does that look like for them? There's not been an explanation of that. So in my mind, to start over, it would be that we roll this out and we take it month by month, and we've already talked about that, and give them the opportunity to fix the planning rather than where they're planning. Just my opinion.
So you're saying if we said, let's stick an Eduphoria, learn the new plans, and then skip to Google, then shift to Google at semester or February?
And that was actually.
I don't want to go back, it's hard, but I don't want to go back to Eduphoria.
So that was a conversation that we had at a principals meeting, is that we would extend till January, and we would do them in, we started off saying we would do them in Eduphoria, and we would take pieces and then roll them out. But then the consensus of the principals was, let's don't do that, because some people are already doing it, let's don't go backwards, let's go ahead and move forward. So that's how the decision was made, to go ahead and move forward now and let them do what they could to the best of their ability in the Google with supports from us, and then hopefully have perfection by January.
Some teachers asked even if we could take the framework that's in Google and put it into Eduphoria, which that's possible because we have the 5E model in there, just like that, and let them learn the lesson plan format and build it in there and then make the shift.
What would keep us from doing that until January? I mean, if some teacher said, look, this is just how I learn. I learn this way. Let me put this in Eduphoria, but by January, I'm going to be where you want me to be. Would that give anybody heartburn? If they've got the lesson planning with the depth and breadth that we're looking for, but they just want to be in Eduphoria for whatever reason. But these are the kind of conversations we have. You're trying to come up with a solution, because we got principals who have absolutely nothing to gain from their teachers struggling.
No, they don't.
But at the same time, there's a goal that we have for where we need to be academically, and the proper lesson plan structure helps us get that way. So they're trying to balance that. And I think with the extra training, that we're going to be able to get there. And I think Ms. Timmerman and Ms. Sternader, when you have the high level of teacher that we have, they want to do everything right today. Okay, so a lot of it, they're putting pressure on themselves, and that's kind of the employee that you want, is someone who's wanting it to be just right, but that's added pressure they're putting on themselves.
Could I add something here? This sounds like about 7 years ago, when the lady in the nice black and white jacket there was my assistant principal when I came back and talked for a while.
Is that what's wrong with
and
her?
we added Eduphoria and C-Scope in the same year, and I literally did not have a computer functioning in my room for 6 weeks. So I understand the frustration and pressure of it as a board member, but I also know that us sitting in this room doing this, I don't think is helpful. I think what's helpful is for your principals and your superintendent, the Dr. Holtz, Ms. Smott, Dr. Averts of the world, getting together and figuring out a plan to help those people go along. But change is inevitable, and it was painful when I had to do it, but you still had to do it. So you figure out a way. The principals wanted Google Docs, so find a way to move towards it. And
Even if it's not a straight line.
it doesn't have to be a straight line. You have to figure it out, but we're not sitting here arguing about it for 30 minutes is not helping anybody. Make a list, sit down in a room, figure it out. Let's figure out a time frame and get it done. But we're making muddy water right now. You can do it. I have complete and total faith in them, but just don't kill anybody on an evaluation or something like that.
Because of it. And that's what they're afraid of.
Any other questions or comments about lesson plan? Okay.
And we will have that up by Friday. Oh, don't forget the,
Gentlemen?
yeah. I mean, the list.
Oh, yeah. I got it.
Okay, next item on our agenda, anonymous reporting requirements.
That would be the
Ms.
anonymous
Bridges?
Ms. Bridges.
You doing it by yourself, or you gonna have with Mr. Kyle and Ms. Robinson?
Well, we can get them up here if we need to.
Okay.
Do y'all have any questions about what was included?
Yeah, it's
in
pretty
your
well
book?
covered there. We're fixing to get our apps, and there's some pretty interesting stories from people about what's happening in other districts, and it's all good.
Any questions?
Questions?
Concerns?
Who monitors the notifications? Does it go directly to 911? Does it go to our dispatcher on campus? How does
It
that work?
goes, so the way that it's set up is that Eric Kyle will get every notification, and then you have the option, you can select the campus. And so all of the secondary principals will also get every notification for their campus. So elementary is all as one group in the app. So if you have an elementary concern, you select elementary. That's going to go to Eric. And Dr. Kane's getting all of them too. I'm so sorry, I forgot that part.
That's okay.
And they will get it to the correct principal.
Will there be data kept on this too?
Yes. Yes, so the reason that we decided to go with this particular company is that it's not only used by school districts, it's used by communities across the United States. It's also used on every military base in the United States. So it's definitely a tried and true program.
I trust it's a good one. Did you happen to look into the iWatch also? I know when Mr. Coronado came with DPS, he mentioned the iWatch, not the iWatch, but
Yeah.
another similar app that the
Don't believe we
DPS
looked at
was
that
using.
one.
The DPS was pushing the iWatch app.
We looked at two that were specific to school districts. They had a lot of bells and whistles that we really didn't feel a program like this needs, and they were a lot more expensive.
Gotcha.
So we decided to go with TIP 411.
Yeah, I don't think there was a cost at all with the iWatch app. I think it was, but
Yeah, I'm sorry we didn't look at that one.
what was the cost of this app?
Less than $5,000 for the whole district for the year. Is that correct, Eric?
Is it a contract, or if we don't like it after a year, can we, is it year to year? Okay.
And this is paid for with title funds, so it's all federal money.
And I think since this is new, I think after the first year or two, the word will get out, what are the good ones and what are the ones that are not. So we'll be part of that pool of, and they'll probably settle on 1, 2, or 3. It's kind of like other programs. Usually 2 or 3 rise to the top, and we can be a part of. It could be a bigger database. It could be ours doesn't support that platform, and I don't know. I'm not even certain what that means. I'm not that good in technology, but I hear Jeff saying that all the time.
And you might consider giving us the data through a report or whatnot, like once a quarter, just so we can see what's working.
We can put that on that. You actually have a chart for those reports that you get, every so often, every month, or every whatever. We can put that, because there'll be a summary. Part of this is a summary. It doesn't say, it'll be in groups, like 3 anonymous tips that were jokes, and 2 of them were about personal concerns. So yes, once a month after we put it in. And the rollout's going to be,
I was going to
we're
say,
going to do that better than we did the last time.
how are we going to roll this out?
Yes, so it will roll out next week. You can already download the app, but the official rollout will happen next week. So we will have a press release and some targeted outreach in the community. We will send out a school messenger email communication with details in both English and Spanish to all district families. We have an informational flyer that we will get to the elementary schools. It'll be sent home with every elementary school student. In our secondary schools, we are going to use the advisory period to provide information on Tip 411. Go ahead and encourage the kids to get out your devices and download the app. And then we'll do, of course, social media posts. We'll put information on the district website. And then Tip 411, another great thing about them is that they actually have their own PR department. So that helps smaller PR departments like ours, because they have some kind of ready-made materials for us. So we'll have posters and other informational items on campuses, and we're also going to put them on our buses so that when kids are just sitting there on the bus, they have something to look at, and maybe they'll remember that Tip 411 app.
Anything else from Ms. Bridges?
Just in the spirit of inclusion, how do the kids without devices, do we have a way for them also?
There is a way, yes. So you can actually log on to a computer. So a child could use any computer on one of our campuses and make an anonymous report. Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, item 6 is our consent agenda. Board, we have items A through E. We can take one motion for all 5 items. We can take them individually, or if there's one in particular you would like to remove for discussion. However the board wishes to proceed.
Mr. President, I can make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
That we approve the consent agenda items A through E.
Motion by Ms. Starnader, second by Mr. Schofield. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, under action items, item 7, consideration action to adopt a resolution pursuant to section 11.058 for the Education Code to designate positions of trustees by number for the purpose of conducting elections of trustees by place or position beginning in the May 2020 trustee election, and to amend WISD board policy BBB local accordingly. I promise you, Mr. Alvenshine, this is the last time you're going to have to present this item, okay?
I asked Mr. Robinson if he could cue up the Chariots of Fire theme song, because I can see the finish line. So this is our 7th meeting. Since we ended school last year, we discussed this at each meeting. And so what you have before you is a resolution which would, for the first time, move the school district to having your trustee election beginning with the May 2020 trustee election conducted by places. And then you have a proposed BBB local, which mirrors the BBB local of Midlothian ISD, NSISD, Red Oak ISD, Ferris ISD, Mansfield ISD, and so forth and so on. I'll entertain any questions you have. You would also, with this agenda item, invited comment, should there have been any comment. And of course, we can suspend to take comment. But if you have any questions, before you have a proposed resolution and proposed amended policy.
But Ms. Bridges, nobody signed up to speak about any matter.
Is there anyone here that wants to speak
Thank
about
you.
this matter before
Just wanna
I
ask one
call
more
for a
time.
vote, the motion? Going once, twice, 3 times we're closed. Okay. All right, board, is there any questions, comments for Mr. Avensheim? Go ahead.
So is there any time frame prior to the May election that this has to be, if it was voted on, if it was approved, is there a time frame prior to that it has to be approved to take effect at the May election?
This is it.
That's it.
So the deadline within the education code is 60 days. 60, and it in fact says 60 days prior to the election. Conservatively, belts and suspenders, you would say 60 days prior to your call of the election, but it doesn't actually say that. It says 60 days prior to the election. So foreseeably, you could do this 60 days before the election, but regardless, even the call of the election isn't until February, which would make 60 days December. This being September, you are well within the time frame to make this change.
So when this vote happens,
This is it.
change.
This is your resolution. And so on page 62 and 63 of your board book is the proposed resolution. And on page 64 is the amended policy BBB local, which we will send down to Austin. This is it. September 9th, you make this decision. September 10th, we send BBB local to Austin. We will let the elections office know of the change, but this is your resolution. As of September 9, the May 2020 trustee election will be by places.
Well, I feel we're ready to make the change. I mean, is that the way everybody else feels?
So what we're going to do is I'm going to call for a motion to, and I'll read it, and then you guys can just make the motion afterwards, and then however you want to proceed is how we proceed.
I'm going to make one comment before we do that.
Okay.
It's, to my knowledge, I guess the city has a meeting in November to vote to do the same thing, is that right? Or an election?
Citywide election.
Okay. If we have until December to vote on this, to take effect in May, we've had all these meetings and we've had opportunity for people to speak, and in my recollection, we haven't heard from anyone. One person, okay. So for the voters.
You had your retained counsel come and speak. Okay. Not at a board meeting, to my knowledge.
So my thinking is if we're going to make a permanent decision that about half of the districts in our region do, it's not all of them, a little more than half, I think it'd be neat to see what the city, the voters would have to say about the city going to that position in November. And if they vote for it, I think it validifies what we're trying to do here and go into positions as well. But my fear, and I don't know if it would happen, is if we do this and it's permanent, and then they go to the citywide vote and the voters vote against it. And then we've made a decision that's permanent, that can't be fixed. So if we have time to wait on that, I'm just throwing that out there as an option versus doing it now.
You realize the registered voters for WISD versus the registered voters in the city of Waxahachie are significantly different as far as numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have no reservations at this time about it, personally.
Okay.
I think we put it out there. We've done our part to advertise and to give opportunity and to discuss it, and we've given it all the due diligence that I feel we should have.
I believe 7 meetings is enough.
I agree.
Okay, so at this time, I will entertain a motion, consideration and action to adopt a resolution pursuant to section 11.058 of the Education Code to designate positions of trustees by number for the purpose of conducting elections of trustees by place or position, beginning with the May 2020 trustee election, and to amend WISD Board Policy BBB Local.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve everything that you just said, because I can't remember all that, but to go to place.
Just say so moved.
Okay, so moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Timmerman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Starnader. Is there any other discussion?
How did we come up with the numbers on page 63?
The way I did your numbers was to take your 2 positions that are up for election this year, make those 1 and 2. The three that are up then in 2021, 3, 4, 5. Then the 2 that are up in 2022, 6 and 7. And then within the years, just went alphabetical order. And so this particular year, for 1 and 2, the places would be place 1, Judd McCutcheon, place 2, Clay Schoolfield. Then for the year where you have 3 come up in 2021, place 3, Kim Kriegel, place 4, John Rogers, place 5, Melissa Starnader. Then for 2022 coming up, place 6, Dusty Autry, place 7, Debbie Timmerman.
But there's one way to do it. You could say, let's put them in alphabetical order, 1 through 5, 7. You could say, put them in reverse alphabetical order. Or you could say, before we vote, let's draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, all of that would be on the paper.
It's truly the board's call.
Talk to me, and I'd say, because it's there, it's.
What?
Yes.
Yes, and so that's in the resolution.
We can change that now.
Okay. But
Before you do the motion. Once you do the motion, you can
We've
go
already
to
got the
numbers.
motion. We have a motion and a second. We're in discussion.
This would be the time to say, here's a different way to do it, and if you can convince.
when you look at most districts, BBB local, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but it can be scattered.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, at this time, I will call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-1. Mr. McCutcheon voting as a dissent. Okay. Last item, motion to
Thank you, Mr.
adjourn. Motion by Mr. McCutcheon, second by Mr. Schofield. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 7-0.